What's going on, guys? In today's video, if you guys are thinking about getting a drift car and start drifting, you guys definitely want to check out this video on the top 3 reasons why you should get an E36. Alright, so first off, I'm going to only compare this car to the 240SX only because that is the other more popular, I guess, beginner drift car for a lot of people. I do know there's other beginner drift cars out there, kind of like the Miata and stuff like that. However, this is more for like somebody who's looking to get into drifting and maybe take it a little further than just, you know, like a small track. All right, so reason number 1 on why the E36 is a better drift car to begin with. We all know about drift tax. So these cars, for the most part, not a whole lot of them are drift tax. In fact, these are stupid cheap to buy compared to the 240SX. A lot of these prices too could also be that the car needs a lot of work or whatever, but in most cases you can find an E36 running strong. May not look super pretty, but for about $2,000, whereas the 240 in a lot of cases they're mostly broken down at that price. To add to this reason, the parts for these older BMWs, they're actually about the same price as any other 240, mainly because these people have a lot of these cars just lying around, parts for sure, so parts aren't super expensive or super hard to get. You can even go to a junkyard and stuff and they have these cars lined up. And with 240s, I haven't really seen a whole lot at junkyards or pick and pulls or anything like that. This was also a time period where BMW didn't use as much as a lot of their special tools and stuff like that, and like electronics and stuff like that. So for this model, for this year, there's a few stuff, much like I had to do the CV axles, so like they required a special tool, or I guess special torque socket wrench set, whatever you want to call it. But after you get those out, you can put in other like standard bolts and nuts and all that stuff to, you know, not have to use that stuff again unless you want it. So to finish off, the overall pro for this reason, I guess, is definitely the price. The fact that all the parts and everything at this time for these cars are still relatively cheap and they're everywhere, much like the 240. As far as the chassis goes, it's a really strong chassis until you get to the back with the subframe. So the real con, I would say, is the subframe definitely needs to be reinforced as soon as possible. These subframes like to just twist and snap. And I mean, it will just pull right out from under you. So most cars, when you're drifting, you want to reinforce the subframe anyways, but these cars definitely need that attention sooner than later, rather than a handful of other cars. So that would be the one biggest con, I would say. All right, so the second reason why this is one of the best starting drift cars is because the motor, at least with the M50, I can't say much for the M52 except for the fact that, you know, it's a little more powerful. But the M50 is BMW's like EJ22 or Toyota's 2J. They're just really reliable if you take care of them properly. I can't speak much for the M52. Like I said, I didn't do a whole lot of research on that motor. I've just been doing research on just the M50s. There's been people on forums and stuff that talk about, you know, boosting these things at like 280,000 miles and they are still running strong at 360, which is freaking crazy. So yeah, if you take care of these motors, they will be reliable, which is a huge pro, because you're not going to be spending so much time having to tear the motor out, rebuild it, you know, just have it down and not driving. And because that's the point, is you want to be driving. So that's a huge pro. Now, the biggest con with these motors, you're going to have issues with the cooling, mainly in the thermostat and in the radiator. And in my case, I have a bad clutch fan right now. So once I fix that, my cooling should be like perfect. However, from factory, BMW puts in a like plastic thermostat with the plastic fins, and they just break a lot. And it doesn't really, you know, help. You overheat a lot after that. The upgrade is to get a thermostat with metal fins and then an aluminum radiator, upgraded radiator. And I would suggest cooling fans. You don't have to. The clutch fan works just fine as long as it's not broken like mine. But better cooling, you get longer time on the track. One last great thing about this motor and this model in this year is the fact that these are all still like really simple to work on. To me, they're pretty much like any other inline six, except they're a little bit better. I remember when I had my Supra, my coil pack was right on top and it had wires and stuff like that, whereas the coil pack is right on the cylinder, which my 350Z was like that, and I loved it. It was super simple. The only big difference between the two with the 350Z and this is I don't have to take out my throttle body just to get to these things. So, you know, super simple. It's still in that time area where everything was just kind of like, you know, it's all right there. You know, it's really easy to get to. There's quite a bit of room, especially when you take everything out, as you can see. So for me, that's a big thing because, again, it's all about having as much track time as you can. And when you're working on a car that just takes a lot of time to work on, you're not getting track time. So you're spending more time working on a car rather than going out and killing tires. Okay, and the last reason why these cars are just freaking awesome is they're about as out of the box drift ready as pretty much any of the other decent starting cars. You weld the diff. They got plenty of angle out of the factory, and out of the factory they have more horsepower than all the other cars, at least most of the beginning drift cars that a lot of people get. So they are as affordable as a 240 or something in the sense of getting it ready. Finding a differential, normally the one you kind of want to go for is the 391 or a 410, and throw them in these. The reason why you want a higher final drive is so you have a shorter gear ratio, and for at least out here in the Northwest, most of our tracks are really small. The only really big track we have close to us would be Evergreen, but the shorter gear ratios are going to help you a lot when you're tackling these small tracks. That's pretty much it. You're ready to go. You weld the diff on these things and they will take the abuse. A little bonus tip, I guess, for basic modifications, just to kind of help you. Having a welded diff is absolutely crucial. I mean, that's something you absolutely need. But with these cars at full lock stock, they have an issue where the brake lines like to rub. In some cases, I haven't really had that experience yet myself, or at least I haven't really been paying attention enough to realize it. But it does happen. And a good fix for this, a good cheap fix for this, I should say, would be just to get 20 millimeter spacers just for your fronts. That's all you need, and that will fix that issue right away. The last thing I'll say that you absolutely probably need right off the bat, as far as modifications go, is coilovers for sure. Now, if you're balling, I say get like BCs or something. But if you're on a budget, a tip would be to look for spring rates for your rears at about 10 to 12,000, and for the front about 6,000. That way you have a softer suspension in the front for more grip and a stiffer suspension in the back, you know, to not have grip, because that's what you want in the back. And that's all you really need to get these cars on the track and just go have fun and learn and just suck a lot and just learn from those mistakes and just keep going. So with that, guys, I'm going to end the video here. The next video I'm thinking about doing is I'm gonna go a little bit more into advanced modifications, and it won't just be about, like, you know, seats, wheels, stuff like that. There's these cars are interchangeable with a lot of parts of, you know, different models of the same chassis pretty much. So there's a bunch of stuff you can swap into this, and we'll go over all those in a later video. So I hope this helps you guys in your decision, and I hope you guys found this info useful. And with that, I will see you guys all in the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys all later. Bye.